Welcome, wrestling fans, to the PW Fan. The PW Fan is the ultimate pro wrestling podcast created by the fans for the fans. This is episode 99. I'm your host, collector, barber, musician, and most importantly, a professional wrestling podcaster, Talk Wrestling, Tim Gilbert.
And I'm your host, the architect of pro wrestling podcast, Funko Pop collector, Booker, Andy.
I am also your host, the no-selling wrestling indie fan and football lover, Jeremy. Which I guess we could all technically put on wrestling podcast hosts at the end of ours.
Yeah, we're wrestling podcast hosts, guys. That's what we're here to do. We're RASSLIN. That spells wrestling. That's what we're here to do. All right. All right, everybody. Today we will be discussing and reviewing Gunther versus Chad Gable. What a match. Can't wait to get into that one. The World Title Eliminator Tournament, MJF and Samoa Joe with a really good segment. Life after CM Punk, and more. Before we start this week's episode, we need to do some plugging on the social media. Go to youtube.com/the PW so you can comment, like, subscribe, and watch along. By doing this, you're helping our YouTube presence grow, helping us get on that recommended for you page. Help us get the PW Fan out there more by wearing our merch. Go to prowrestlingtees.com/the PW where we have a ton of different designs and some new ones coming this year. For all other social media, you just search at the PW Fan and we should pop right up. Hit that follow button, leave some feedback, like, subscribe, leave a review. All that stuff helps us make this show better. And stick around until the end for my classic show of the week recommendation. Now, wrestling fans, are you ready? Ready for a ringside roundup on this week's episode of the PW Fan, jaw-dropping moments and backstage buzz from the world of pro wrestling. All right, Andy, over to you, buddy. Let's go.
So I don't got any news. Well, I guess I could have some news as of today.
You don't got
I don't got no news. Don't got no news that's not related to TV, but I guess I do out of today. It's stuff with Matt Riddle in the airport.
What
Claiming at the JFK airport. Claiming at the JFK airport. So I believe, I read this off of Ringside News, and I'm sure it was reported other places, because Jeremy, you said that you had seen stuff, but
yeah,
Matt Riddle had some travel complications at the JFK airport, said that he was assaulted by security there. I actually might be able to find the actual tweet that he would eventually delete. JFK security eventually said that he was heavily... So he accused airport security of assaulting him, but then more information started to come out about the situation. Let's see. It is also told to us that Matt Riddle appeared to be heavily intoxicated at the time. Riddle then brushed off a suggestion to lodge a formal complaint. He was allegedly disruptive and caused officers to be called. I wish I could find the tweet though that he wrote. He eventually deleted it though.
Yeah.
So,
and what time? This was in the morning.
It was. I'm pretty sure it was early because I saw the news early in the day, so I assume. Yeah.
I'm just saying that because they said he was drunk, and so I was like, it sounded like it was pretty early in the day for that. Which is
so he wrote nothing like being assaulted by an officer and harassed at the JFK airport. No means no, and just because I'm nice doesn't mean yes, asshole. Don't know their Twitter or Instagram handles, but I took pictures. Normally I'm like, whatever, but today was really weird and uncomfortable, and they made a point to make me feel small and useless. Definitely one of the most uncomfortable travel days I've ever had. Thanks, NYC. You're so progressive and accepting. But then eventually he deleted it. So I don't know. But Riddle is back in the news again. Maybe he'll go away again and come back with a Speedo. His underwear, his gear will just be even tighter shorter. Every time he goes away and comes back, it'll just get shorter and shorter.
Less clothing.
So that was it. I guess I'm sure if more comes of it besides what we just talked about, I'm sure we'll talk about it. I guess we'll see in the coming later on.
Hey, Derek. Do you guys know about Hey Derek?
What is that?
What?
Well,
No.
No.
there's a great old tweet where Chris Jericho got kicked out of a hotel, and he put on Twitter, he's like, at Hilton Hotels, I am a Diamond Plus member. I've never been treated this way. Hey, Derek, at the front desk. He's like he's like, you're gonna lose your job or something like that. But the Hey
Oh
Derek
my god.
the Hey Derek is classic. Hey Derek.
That's
Actually, I think I briefly remember Jericho doing that a little while ago.
Oh, he always has
Or
troubles
something
in
like that.
hotels.
Yeah. But that's about it for things outside of the weekly television shows. We can get right into Raw. Raw opened up with its newest superstar that has been added to its roster as of Payback from Cody Rhodes, making the announcement. Jey Uso opened up the show. His new theme song is kind of a spin-off of the Usos theme song. I mean, each twin has their own like spin-off, it sounds like, of...
And they both recorded it, right? Like, they both are the ones.
I think so. It sounds like them.
And yeah. That's what I
But
thought.
Jey Uso, I don't know if he's going to keep this up, but made his entrance through the crowd. And
I think they should keep that.
he came out, cut a promo talking about being on his own for a while. Sami Zayn eventually would come out and basically warn him, like, hey, you've been with the bloodline a long time, and there's a lot of people back here that aren't going to be happy with you being here. When they left the ring, they would pass by Riddle and Drew McIntyre, who both have had issues with Roman Reigns and the bloodline in the past, and there was kind of a stare down. So that was just a little taste. But it seemed to be a common theme throughout the show overall.
Yeah, I'm glad that he didn't just show up and it's like all the baby faces are friends with the baby faces. I'm glad they're actually like, hey, you were kind of a dick for the last year with the bloodline. We don't like you.
Well, they're basically what they're doing. I'm sure you guys would agree is that they're not pretending that it didn't happen. They're not they're not making the audience feel stupid. Like, how are you guys just gonna act like they're supposed to be cool now?
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're doing a pretty good job though overall. Like, and then we'll get into more of it, but I think that kind of where we get to later in the week with the shows, they're doing a good job of, like, I think main event Jay and Jimmy, like, I can look at them like differently, like, and I think people could accept it eventually. Like, I think main event Jay can be like a thing, but we'll get there.
And I think that's the plan.
Yeah.
From what I've read around is that multiple places, but is that at least for Raw they're trying to push him into some kind of.
It seems like a
main
lot
star
of
role.
It seems like a lot of back and forth, but I think that I could see them letting Jimmy back in the bloodline and kind of continuing the story more, because we'll talk about all these trio stuff coming up. Well, it's not really trios, but all this faction war. It almost reminds me of like Game of Thrones. It's like the bloodline's falling apart and we're going to be the next blah, blah, blah. But it's been cool. I actually like all this faction stuff right now.
And we'll get into a little bit of the teasing that happened on SmackDown with Jimmy and the Bloodline later on in the show. But no, I agree. I mean, unlike some teams that split up, I can see both guys kind of being top stars for once. They are different enough from each other, even though they look exactly alike.
Yeah, because the twins. So.
Yeah. Well, you can have fraternal twins, but
yeah,
but they are, their characters are completely different from one another. Even when they were together, their characters were different. So
they at least did the color change too. Like Jay is blue, unlike the Titantron and all that stuff now.
A little bit of different hairstyle, and honestly, I think both have a different connection to the crowd. Like, they both connect differently, and it's
one's a babyface and one's a heel right now.
Yeah, exactly. I think that they're both doing really good, like, at that role.
But yeah, one of you said hairstyle. I noticed Jay added some blonde to the back of his hair. And another thing that was mentioned during Raw, so I want your guys' thoughts. Since Jay came over to Raw, apparently there's going to be an equal trade to SmackDown. Are we thinking Cody Rhodes? Are we thinking?
I said this last time. Because I thought I was confused. I was like, I thought they were doing this already, but then they actually explained it on Raw.
But they
And
haven't said or hinted at who's it going to be.
No, but it
Yeah.
has to be Cody because that's how
You
they
think?
continue the story or finish the
Uh-huh.
story.
Well, that's my bet. My bet's Cody
Yeah.
Rhodes.
Do you guys think
If it
this
wasn't gonna be Cody
honestly,
Rhodes,
who else would it
gonna
be?
really are we ever gonna really finish the story? Like, do you think this is finally gonna be a thing that happens
Yes, this year at WrestleMania when we go.
when we go?
No, it's gonna be the bottom of the fourth this time. It's not.
You
It's
know
not the
who
third
we,
anymore. So they moved on to the fourth.
You know, it's early, but I'm hopeful, and you know I got to do it one time for the olden days. I'm hoping that at WrestleMania we might see live in person, like Mussolini and
No, it was
Kennedy.
coming. I know. This is the thing. I was talking to Jeremy about this earlier because I saw a news article on my homepage. Or no, it was on my Facebook. So, what's the company that owns UFC and WWE?
Endeavor.
Endeavor.
Endeavor is like finally taking over soon. Endeavor did hire CM Punk in 2016. They might be able to take control and make that kind of decision without a Vince or a Triple H. I'm just saying.
The CM Punk crying guy from the legendary First Dance, that's going to be me at WrestleMania. I'm going to be like this.
Some of you.
If he comes out. You know, I was thinking about, speaking of WrestleMania, this is off topic of
Also,
shows, but it has to do with Mania.
I did get one thing real quick. I just want to add this in. Just a fun thing, because we never talk about our nerdy wrestling stuff that we get. I feel like we haven't in a while. I did get the jacket to wear to Mania next year. And when I say the jacket,
Is it a Punk jacket?
it's the jacket that he wore when he walked out to the AFI song, the white and black with the 3 X's on the back.
Oh,
and the,
yeah.
You fucking mark.
Yeah. Yeah. Punk, baby. Woo!
It was like 2 days in a row.
Yeah, 2 days in a row.
But what I was saying is I was thinking about what the Titantron would look like for Philadelphia. You know, they have the whole bell as like the logo for Philly. Cody's Cody's gear is going to fit right in. I'll tell you that much.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
the
and
red, white, and blue stuff.
And I'm bringing. This is kind of a special moment, and it's you know, it could be considered cringe or corny to like other people, but whatever. I'm bringing the Eddie Guerrero WWE Championship to WrestleMania with us because I feel like that's like a full circle. Like that belt to me and Andy is like really special, and I wanted to be there for like something that
Bring both. Both are of that era.
yeah, but that's a lot to carry around. The one I think can make the
So you're
trip.
gonna be in the crowd.
They're lightweight, I'll tell you that. They definitely aren't
unless,
lightweight.
unless
Both
Andy's
the
down to carry around the Eddie belt, but
I'm good.
It's either that or just one's coming.
I'm good.
One makes the journey.
Let's move on though through Raw because we literally have just started. Kofi Kingston accidentally cost Drew McIntyre Riddle their match against the Viking Raiders, I believe last week. Drew threw a chair at Xavier Woods, like a big, like rolling swivel chair. I think he chucked it at him. And so this was kind of like, since Kofi accidentally cost them, he kind of said, well, you did throw a chair at my partner, so they're kind of even. We had a Shinsuke Nakamura video, which he delivered a promo in Japanese in the video. He vowed to win the world title from Seth Rollins, so it looks like we're not done with that. And I got to say, I don't know about you guys, I'm liking this version of Shinsuke, at least compared to recent years.
Oh yeah, I mean, because recent years he had nothing.
No.
Like he wasn't a character at all.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know what you're doing. You're just on TV
Yeah,
being a guy that loses.
yeah. So at least he has something now.
He has. I heard people saying he's an anime villain right now.
I was gonna say, yeah, he has the
After
anime.
that anime video package from the pay-per-view, he's an anime villain.
Yeah, they should keep that up with like the backstage videos they do for him, like in that style. because that'd be
Seems
really
to be
cool.
popular from what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I liked it.
Well, that would lead us into our Seth Rollins segment, which he called out Nakamura to finish what they started, despite the fact that the doctors apparently haven't cleared him following Payback when Shinsuke, I guess, was going for his back. Shinsuke would come out, speak Japanese until Seth would ask him if they were going to have a match or not. Shinsuke would end up saying no. Seth didn't like that answer, though, and went after him until it was broken up by officials.
That was kind of an awkward part, I felt like, when he was like, no. And Seth was like, what do you mean?
Yeah, it was like
Shinsuke was like, no.
You forget what you were supposed to say.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what
it felt like a moment like that where Seth's like waiting for him to say something else.
But after the commercial break, this would lead to a match where Ricochet would end up defeating Nakamura due to disqualification, I believe because of Seth Rollins, who was out there, I think on commentary.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to remember. It was like a week ago, so.
Yeah.
Like a week ago.
All right.
Sorry.
About a week ago. We had Judgment Day segment.
Any Gen Z listeners are like, the fuck is this old ass guy talking about?
Jesus. So we had a segment of Judgment Day. Everyone came out carrying their titles. Damian Priest was holding his Money in the Bank briefcase. Then I believe Priest looked angry when Balor gave JD McDonough a shout out for helping them. I think during their match at Payback. And JD would eventually come out holding a bag, and he told Priest that he didn't need that briefcase. He said, "You need this briefcase." I like the look of this briefcase. It's just purple, silver writing, and it says Senor Money in the Bank.
Yeah.
But it fits better. It fits better with the group. It's purple.
Yeah. It didn't take it was kind of obvious. I was like, he has a new briefcase. I'm like, what are you saying? Like, it's like, just get this bit over with. Like when he was like waiting to unveil it.
I actually thought.
What were you saying, Tim?
I thought it was pretty good.
So,
I thought the
Priest...
segment of the unveiling and like where he's like, you don't need this, you need this. I was like, I thought that was good.
I love JD. I'm glad they're finally using him, figuring out what to do with him. Maybe eventually he'll join the Judgment Day for good. Yeah, so Priest, though, after JD gave him that, he kind of, Priest has been the one not liking JD recently and wanting him around because he's not part of Judgment Day, so don't be acting like you're part of Judgment Day business kind of thing. Sami Zayn, I believe, though, would end up coming out and I believe he challenged Dom to a match, but JD would end up accepting the challenge instead.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. Which got me excited to see that match. And that would happen a little later before our main event. We had Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark interact backstage and agree to have a match to find out who the baddest bitch on the roster is. I think was their words.
This was this baddest bitch on the roster match. That was the actual name of the gimmick match.
It wasn't a very good match, I'll tell you that much. It wasn't great, so. But I thought they were going to book Zoe to win, but Shayna would end up winning.
Turns out neither one of them.
I feel like she's in.
Raquel Rodriguez would defeat Chelsea Green. # justice for Chelsea.
Dude, that clothesline and then the powerbomb combo at the end. I was like, good Lord, that bump was brutal, man.
Raquel's a beast. And I believe, didn't she end up saying at some point that she's not finished with Rhea?
Well, they're booking her strong.
Yeah.
They're booking her strong right now. She's on the come up.
They also have like the rematches for the Payback. What's the next one? Fastlane? I feel like it's just a rematch of Payback matches.
Well, I think I believe, isn't she mad because Dom got involved and booking her strong, Tim? That's how she was booked in NXT, and then they brought her to the main roster, and she was like super smiley, and like that's just how they ended up booking her as like a babyface. She was like dominant.
But you gotta make Roman look really, really strong.
really strong. Never forget. Dude, I'm waiting for a tell-all. We keep bouncing back to Punk.
The
But I'm waiting.
podcast part 2, where he comes back and tells his side,
Yeah.
and then his new best friend gets sued, and they hate each other in 10 years.
God.
Whose podcast would he even do it for? Like, I don't even, like, I can't even think of like anybody.
You know, Jericho would be all over it. He's like, "Look, man, I know we work in the same company, but why don't you come over and tell me how you're feeling?"
Jericho probably asked him as soon as he got fired. He's like, "Hey, do you want to do a podcast episode?"
Do you want to do like a tell-all?
Go to Bischoff's
like
podcast.
Moxley?
Bischoff's talking shit on AEW.
Yeah.
Well, Bischoff doesn't like Punk either, so.
No, dude, corny. Corny.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
The
Talk
ultimate.
shit about,
Dude,
like,
that would
come
be
talking shit about
insane.
about the Bucks and Kenny and all of them.
that'd be
Well,
fun.
one
Oh my
corny
God.
episode gets more viewers than every wrestling show like over the week combined, so it's all good.
That's crazy.
Maybe not SmackDown.
What you guys think of? Does Miz need an award for the acting he did during this Miz TV segment with John Cena?
I thought it was funny where he
Did you
wasn't
guys
there.
like this segment?
I mean, it was silly,
Dude,
look,
Steve the cameraman deserves an award for
Yeah.
that camera work
Yeah.
he was doing.
See, it's funny because I saw a lot of stuff on Twitter about this, and I liked it overall. Like, I always like this, like the silly stuff when wrestling does this. But everyone was sharing a video with, like, I don't even remember, like, Bryce Remsburg, the ref in AEW. He did a match, like, he was reffing a match, but it was like 2 invisible people, and so he was like, it was on the Indies, and he was like acting like to them, like if they were pinning each other or whatever.
It's the
and
guy
everyone-
that Tim was doing an invisible match, was reffing an invisible match.
What? Yeah.
Ugh.
He reffed an invisible match in the Indies, and everyone hated it. I hated on him for it, and then everyone loved this one. I thought it was like just kind of funny.
Well, this isn't a match Miz was doing.
No, but it's the same concept as like there's an invisible guy, and you're like, oh my god, like acting
Jeremy, it's not the same.
in it. What do you mean it's not the same?
Because the Miz is clearly joking that no one's there.
Also, it's
Where-
a John Cena
Yeah.
gimmick. You can't see me.
Yeah, but so was the guy is wrestling was called the Invisible Man. That's the gimmick.
Oh, the Invisible
Okay.
Man is terrible.
Just because it's on WWE and not on the Indies doesn't mean it's a difference.
Still, I'd rather watch a Miz segment doing this than an
Yeah, I
invisible
know.
match.
I know.
Why don't we put on the blow up doll match while we're at it, or the broomstick match, or the
I know.
little
I like the
kid
indie
match?
stuff. I know you guys don't like that stuff, so
No, you like the indie stuff. You're an indie wrestling fan.
No, but you know what, Jeremy?
I just try to
Jeremy-
enjoy it.
Jeremy stands his ground. But you know what though? I will say this.
Yes, he should.
As he should. He shouldn't back down just because you and I like to tease him about it. But it's all in good fun. But I will say, I think I'm getting out of my grumpy old man phase and being a little bit more open-minded to stuff because look, it's never going to change, right? But I love pro wrestling, and I don't want to stop liking pro wrestling. So sometimes you got to bend and adapt a little bit, and I feel like I'm finally starting to come around to be like, all right, this is okay, because it can't go back. It won't go back. So if I still want to be a fan, I can't be negative all the time. It's got to be some give and take, And we started this podcast as being positive, which I would like to get more back to that instead of, the vibes are, like.
Does this mean you're going to take away your title of grumpy old school wrestling fan?
No, you can't do that because I am the grumpy old school wrestling fan. But I can be a little less grumpy and more accessible.
I was about to say about Jeremy defending indie wrestling. Who's that guy that got canceled?
Defending.
That he had
Joey
the
Ryan.
mustache. People would grab his. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Did you like
Yeah.
that shit? Is that good to you?
I mean, you did too.
Yeah. He caught it. We'll go back in the archives.
Oh, no. We'll have to go back in
Yeah.
the archives.
Y'all talked about the All In thing, and we thought it was funny.
Michael Jackson stuff is awful, and I don't know who that guy is, but people are like, if wrestling's fake, then explain this, and it's like Michael Jackson.
Or like the
moonwalking.
pizza guy who's like throwing the dough as he's
You've
wrestling.
never liked that guy.
All
I don't know
right,
if you have. Me and Tim have never liked the pizza guy.
Fuck the pizza guy, dude. I'm not even gonna.
I mean, him
even
as a person, yeah, because I know he's like really conservative and everything. But
I hate the gimmick. I
Fuck
think
it-
it's
fuck his
yeah.
gimmick. Fuck his gimmick and his politics.
Moving on. JD McDonough would end up defeating Sami Zayn in their match that we talked about was scheduled earlier. Afterwards, Sami would attack Dom, and then he would attack JD, so Sami would end up getting the upper hand. But I want to jump into this main event. Chad Gable, once again, taking on Gunther.
It's a
Dude,
banger.
I don't know. It's probably because they keep wrestling each other. I swear their matches get better every time. Chad Gable's family was in the audience. I know Tim had mentioned this
it was a little rough.
earlier. He could talk about it. Before we get into that, though, Gunther would end up winning after a fantastic match, and is now the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion, beating Honky Tonk Man, I believe. Correct? Old school wrestling fan?
Well, the longest reign of all time is Honky Tonk Man, and then I think the record's been broken.
Now it's
yeah,
Gunther.
is that,
Then.
yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess my question was Honky Tonk Man the record holder before this?
I believe
So
he
yeah,
was the,
you guys talk about the
I
match.
believe he was the current before this. I'm thinking.
I'm sure he's not happy about this. I'm sure he's like, this is the last thing I was holding on to in the wrestling
He's
world.
like, this is fucking bullshit, man. I'm tired of this fucking shit. At the convention center, where I can't even say I'm the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time. God damn it.
Yeah, when he does events now, he can't say like, and we're bringing in the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion.
Stealing my gimmick.
So yeah, talk about his kids. I mean, it was brutal. I hope they know it's work, but
I
don't think that young, you know.
I hope that dad is like, hey, I'm not really hurt, because the girl's reaction was like so sad. I was like, damn.
How about the match itself, Jeremy?
The ending,
I was really good.
The suplex on his head near the end was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
you were a
was
little
crazy,
bit just
yeah.
watching your dad get dropped on his head.
See, I guess that's kind of what I mean. It's like that, and then he gets pinned afterwards, and then the girl's like crying, and I'm like, this is a little reminiscent of Noelle Foley in the Beyond the Mat documentary, but obviously not as bad, because Mick Foley didn't get hit in the head 20 times with it, or Gable didn't get hit in the head 20 times with a chair, but still.
Yeah. Yeah, but the match itself was really good. Yeah, I think Chad Gable, I just wish that he would not have like the gimmick he does, because it feels like he can't get a better push than he is right now. Like it
I
feels
don't know,
like
the angle. It's like the Kurt Angle gimmick, a little
Yeah.
bit.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that they could.
Eventually.
I think if they lean into this, when they showed him driving up with his family, he's got the suit on, he's like a serious athlete. Like, I hope that they lean more into that. Like, it's like almost like he's a UFC fighter, like he's like a serious,
well,
like.
he did mention about the shushing part being done and some of those other things, so maybe that is done.
So he's like I'm gonna show them that I'm serious and not just
Yeah.
some comedy stuff. Well, then you got to get away from Otis.
Yeah, that
I don't know
is
what to
true.
tell you. 'Cause I know you will listen and watch this podcast. So if you're listening, Chad,
Friend of the show,
what you can
Chad
do.
Gable.
I think there was a little interaction with him and Jason Jordan backstage.
I think they said
believe.
Jason Jordan produced that segment.
Did he? Well, I know he's a producer backstage, but I think there was a video during Raw, or it was like one of those like internet videos that like exclusive
Oh,
that
yeah.
popped up later. That wraps up Raw. You guys got anything to add before you get into Dynamite?
Not for this show.
Dynamite, I will say, I was surprised that the main event was what it was. When I was going through the list of stuff, I was like, really? This is how the show ended? But whatever. So I audibly like laughed when I turned on Dynamite and Orange Cassidy not being champion still opened up the show.
Yeah, I know.
Like
I
he's
was laughing
opening
so
up
hard.
as champion week after week for months and months and months. He's not champion. He still opens up the show and cut what it's rare for him to cut a promo, but basically promising to show up every week regardless whether he has a title or not. That was the gist of the promo. I mean, I got a hot take on Orange Cassidy though. Bryan Danielson saying that him and Moxley are the best wrestlers in the world kind of blew my mind, but
I tell you this.
I mean,
Jim
Orange Cassidy,
Cornette,
his
Jim,
wrestling
Jim,
is good.
Jim Cornette just rolled over in his grave, and he's not even dead yet. So
yeah, he's like I think it's non-negotiable that Moxley. This was in the press conference. Said Moxley is the best in the world. He's like, but Orange Cassidy is a close second. I was just like, oh my god. I'd rather watch Roman Reigns or
moving on. Positive energy.
There's also a guy named Will Ospreay who's still wrestling.
The hot take. Speaking of Moxley,
It's
right
not even a
afterwards,
hot
Moxley
take.
would
There's
defeat.
plenty of people listening that were probably mind blown by that. It's not a hot take.
Moxley would end up defeating AR Fox in his first international championship defense. After that, we would have Chris Statlander defeating Emi Sakura in a TBS championship defense. And speaking of
I am being
Sakura,
serious. Wait, hang on. Is it Emi Sakura or Emi Sakura? Being serious. I just want to make
Sakura.
sure. Okay. As long as it is.
It's not like the restaurant.
No, not like that.
But that's that's the Sakura I know. But no, it's Sakura.
Okay.
Not Sa. It's Sak.
Right.
And I saw it was a bummer of a video I saw the other day of her at All In. So her whole
crying.
gimmick, is like coming out as Freddie Mercury, right?
Yeah.
And I guess I don't know if she uses that song or the stomps are in her song or something, but
She's used it before.
yeah, she was bummed
That's
that
called gimmick infringement,
Paige
pal.
was using it or Saraya was using it.
Yeah,
Or
I
maybe
saw
she
a lot
thought that
I saw a lot of comments that were like,
AEW would do it for her.
I saw a lot of comments that were like, I'll never forgive Tony Khan for this. It's like the video of her.
I also
crying.
saw Saraya posted about it, and she she posted a picture of her giving Emmy the middle finger and being like, "You'll never use that song."
My God, just doubling down.
You'll never use this song.
She is a heel right now, so. So we had a backstage kind of pre-taped segment with Roderick Strong talking about his tough upbringing and talking about how Adam Cole knew all about that. Then we had a match with Les Sex Gods, Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara, defeating Aussie Open, but there was tension afterwards. Why was there tension afterwards? Did stuff happen in the match that I missed? They won.
Yeah, I think I can't remember what it was now, but they just have tension. They don't like each other still.
I think there was a bunch of miscommunications is what I'm seeing. And then let's talk about what Tim said we were going to talk about, this MJF promo that also would eventually include Samoa Joe.
Babyface MJF.
Yeah, so MJF would come out. He talked a little. I don't want to get this wrong, so I'm just going to start basically. And talk about basically once Joe was actually in the ring with him, Joe would keep calling MJF kid and asking what his issue is. MJF talked a little bit about NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, again mentioning WWE multiple times on TV. On another
But this
show,
made sense for the storyline, though.
But you could say in another company or another show, but they just straight up do it. Whatever.
I don't mind it as much because it's like they're not pretending that another company doesn't exist or that it didn't happen somewhere else. I think it's also because WWE never mentioned someone else for like a long time, and then we gotten used to them not doing that.
Didn't Tony Khan 2 years ago when we first started the podcast, and I thought we were all in agreement at the time that we were we understood his point of view, which was he has like some business people that talk to him that were basically like, look, you are number two,
Yeah.
right? So might as well just lean into it. So, but
It was the Burger
Number
King
one
McDonald's
doesn't mention
thing.
number two, but number two can mention number one.
right. So, I mean, and that happens
It's
all
the
the time with
philosophy.
Wendy's and Burger King, with McDonald's. But yeah, I thought we had talked about this a few years ago, but yeah, it's still kind of going on.
We probably did. True fans, go back and delve in because we won't. But
We're about to
MJF
have
will talk
100
about.
episodes.
So I think
You could listen
I
to
know,
the
it's
PW
crazy.
fan for like, dude, like you could listen to us 24 hours a day for like 5 days straight at this point. That's pretty crazy.
that's
You
kind of
just
crazy.
leave it
That much
playing.
content.
Just leave it playing. Our voices.
But MJF would talk about a moment that I think most of us have seen online because especially after Joe pushed MJF at the All Out pay-per-view, I think people were doing the comparison videos. So if you hadn't seen it, MJF talks about it. How he had a tryout with WWE at 19 years old, and the whole story with William Regal and him that he has talked about before when Regal was in AEW. But he also said that while he was there, they said that you can do security for a superstar, and it ended up being Samoa Joe. And you can see the video online. Samoa Joe walk in with security. MJF's like the front security guard, and Samoa Joe shoves MJF into a wall. Now, they're saying that he just did that on his own. I don't know if it was actually planned, if Joe was just doing it to do it as like his gimmick, or if he knew that MJF knew he was going to get pushed. Either way, Max brings up that story, and I believe correct me if I'm wrong, he tries to antagonize Joe to get him to kind of attack him. During
Well,
the
at
segment.
first he was like, yeah, MJF says he's not going to fall for what Joe's trying to make him do and those things. So he wasn't going to fight him.
Oh, see, I thought it was the other way around. Well, I thought then it flipped, and Joe's like, because Max slapped him, and he's
Yeah.
like, I'm just going to wait. He's already said, I'm going to go through this tournament, the Eliminator tournament,
Yeah.
and face you then. And so at the end of the segment, though, as MJF's leave the ring, I think Joe low blows him and then puts him in the coquina clutch. And Adam Cole would come out, and Joe would end up running away.
No, I thought it was Joe attacks MJF, is beating him up, and then not Adam Cole. Then MJF low blows Joe. He comes up from behind him and low blows Joe, and then they.
I just know Joe ends up running out of the ring.
He did do that. MJF low blowed him afterwards, but then they started fighting, and then Samoa Joe was about to do the what's the finisher?
So there was a scuffle between
Muscle
MJF.
Buster.
There was a scuffle between MJF and Samoa
Out
Joe.
to save his friend. Yes,
But
Cole
the thing
came out
is
to
that
save his
people
friend.
pointed out also online is that Adam Cole came out to save MJF before he did the Muscle Buster, which he didn't do for Roderick Strong, and that's how Roderick Strong hurt his neck.
Ah.
Yeah, he
Well,
didn't come out
speaking of Roderick Strong, we would have the first match of the Eliminator tournament, which Roderick Strong the other week said he was going to enter so that he could face MJF himself. And Roderick Strong would end up defeating Trent Beretta.
Is his entrance music just him being like Adam, yelling Adam?
Oh,
Like-
right now, coming out with
Yeah,
the
he didn't have any entrance music. It was just him like yelling Adam, and then he just walks out.
because he came out on
Well, I'm not gonna lie.
remember.
Him coming out to the Kill Switch Engage song with a neck brace on with the two
I love it.
Stooges behind him would be so stupid.
Oh, well, that.
He's like a goofy
Didn't
comedy
he-
character. It's like.
Didn't he take off his neck brace
For the
in
match,
one of
yeah.
these matches? Okay, yeah, and then he put it back
And
on
then-
afterwards.
Yeah,
Makes
as soon as he pinned him, he was like, he motioned, he's like, put it back on.
He's been wearing that forever. I keep waiting.
That's-
When is he gonna take it off?
That's kind of how I remember I love gimmicks like that. Cody Rhodes when he had the mask.
And there was
They-
nothing wrong with his face.
There was
but he's,
nothing
like,
wrong with
ugly.
him, but he needed it.
This segment kind of is getting blown up. The Tony Storm backstage segment with Renee when she says, it's like, chin up, tits up, and watch for the shoe. And then she ends up chucking the shoe at. People are liking this Tony Storm, like, prissy, proper, like, character that she's doing.
If there's not a shirt already for that, there should be a shirt for that. I feel like this is going to be easy.
Quote.
Yeah.
Well, people are like commenting on Instagram and stuff. That's why I'm like, it's kind of getting traction. Whatever they did.
Posting about it. Yeah.
We had a Hangman Adam Page promo because he won. Was it at All Out or at All In? He won the Battle Royal to donate
All
money.
Out. It was in Chicago.
And he donated. I did not know Hangman Adam Page used to be a teacher, but he said
He looks
you're
like him.
underfunded and underpaid or something like that. And so that's the reason why he was a teacher in Chicago, I think. He said a high school.
Was it
teacher.
Chicago?
Yeah, I think so.
But that's where you donate money to.
But Swerve would end up coming out, which was super random and kind of like felt like belittling and destroying Hangman Adam Page.
Promo.
Yeah, I was like, wait, I was like, why are they doing this? But sort of in one of his quotes was, if I would have got the opportunities you've gotten a year ago, I would be the first black AEW World Champion by now. Pretty much said that Hangman keeps getting opportunities and failing at them.
And he called him fat.
But then Brian Cage, hell yeah, he did call him fat without saying the word fat. He said that something like he can tell
He
that
said,
he's been like eating.
"You've been
or
eating
whatever.
good, and we can tell."
Oh yeah, okay. I found his quote. He said, "You haven't gotten any new wrestling gear in over a year now. You haven't gotten any new merchandise on the website in almost a year. You got a whole new contract extension, so you've been eating good, and it's been showing."
Yeah.
Yeah, that's brutal.
But Brian Cage,
I've been eating good too, guys. Though, to be honest with you, I had I had Macker's dude. I had a burger yesterday and today, and then I had a Macker's burger on. Dude, I've been eating so much McDonald's, guys. I gotta stop.
Oh, I was about to say, what the hell is Macker's?
Macker's, Mickey
But
D's,
also,
McDonald's, Ronnie's house,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it, the Golden Arches.
Also, you're not a pro wrestler, though, so think you're right.
That is true. I'm not a professional athlete now, am I?
You're not an app. Some old Lucy K bit. But Brian Cage, Swerve Strickland's buddy, would end up taking out Hangman, and they're going to have a match. It says Hangman and Brian Cage 3. I don't remember 1 and 2, but that's next week on Dynamite.
Well, hang on. Before we move
Oh,
before we move on, I do have one question. You're stranded in a parking lot. You got nothing to eat, but Macker's is sitting on the corner, the Golden Arches. What's your order? What do you get? I'll start to give you an example. I get 2 double cheeseburgers and a small fry.
Don't do the corny order. Please don't. Okay.
No, 2 double cheeseburgers, extra cheese, so that way you know that they're making it fresh. And the double cheeseburger has 2 slices of cheese, where the McDouble only has 1.
that's true. That is true. That's what I get. I also get it, but also when I'm a bit intoxicated on the weekends. So it's a late night thing.
Yes.
But it's definitely a Big Mac, double cheeseburger, fries, and even some nuggets then.
Oh, yeah, that's a good order.
Right there.
That's a good order. All right, Andy. Andy, what are you getting? It's at the Golden Arches.
It's one. I mean, it'd be one of 2 things. It'd either be a quarter pounder with cheese meal, nothing special, or a fish fillet meal.
Fish fillet.
Dude, I will say
I don't
this-
know how you guys like this.
The fish as a kid. Tim was eating them in like 6th grade for some reason.
Dude, the fillet of fish, the fish fillet, whatever you want to call it. It goes by many names. The fish sandwich. You have to order an extra slice of cheese on it because they only give you a half a
only give you
slice of
half.
cheese. some kind of sick joke that they play where they. Why would you only
I
give me
love
half a
filet
slice?
fish.
Because who's ordering fish at a McDonald's?
Oh,
I
dude.
love filet of fish from McDonald's, but I even worked there, and I would never get when it came for a small amount of time the double filet of fish. I would
Oh.
never do that.
Oh,
Too much fish.
that's-
I don't need that.
oh no.
But filet of fish has a different bun to it. It's
Yeah,
there's
it's
no sesame
softer.
seeds, nothing.
You know what, Andy?
Soft
I
bun.
always knew that. I said they're fucking with us. Something's up with this filet of fish bun. It's way softer. So you
No,
work
it's bun.
you
It's
work
a-
there. It is factually its own bun.
I worked there when I
You
was
don't work.
14.
You
15.
work there no longer.
Don't work there now.
No offense. Look, we might have a couple McDonald's managers, listeners, employees. That is fine.
McDonald's, please.
Also, since we're on this topic, Andy, when you worked there, would someone, I saw this thing on probably TikTok, but it was like you order a Big Mac, but get it with chicken instead of a burger.
No, and I would never eat a Big Mac myself. I just find them gross.
I know you do, but I'm saying, like, would anyone ever order that?
No one's ever done that.
But Andy, didn't you used to make when you were in high school working there? Didn't you used to? And I'm prefacing that. I'm like, Andy, when you were in high school working at McDonald's, did you make like didn't you make like all kinds of concoctions like cool snack wraps and stuff? I remember.
I was never in the kitchen, but people would make me like a dope ass like quesadilla kind of thing with like the grilled chicken
Ooh.
strips and like ranch. And it was banging.
It's probably so good.
That sounds good
Yeah.
right now.
Secret menu at
Yeah.
McDonald's. Ugh.
Dude, it was
Yeah.
amazing. Because those guys that are actually cooking, and when it's slow, they can just make their own lunch and be like, "Let's try this out."
That sounds good.
I will say this, and this is I don't think this is a, and then we'll move back on to wrestling. But fast
I was
food.
going to say, how many people have checked out of this podcast now?
No, come on.
We've
Look,
done 20 minutes on McDonald's.
we've only gained more followers from this podcast now that they know that we eat Mackers. Mackers has a call following.
God.
We're
As soon as
man
they
of
This
the
is the
people.
title of the
They
episode.
were like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Home of the Golden
Is that
Arches.
the title? Yeah.
Oh, my God. All right.
Episode
Let's do
99.
the
Home of the.
of-
Let's do the Mick main. Let's just do the Mick main event. Let's get going.
Yeah.
Well, the main event was an eliminator
The
tournament
Mick main
match.
event.
Darby Allin would end up defeating his friend Nick Wayne. I was just surprised this was the main event. I didn't think it was something I would wait all night to see, but
They're giving that
Um,
kid a lot of good
Nick
spots
Wayne.
right now.
and
He's only
his
18.
his puka shell necklace or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, he's 18, so.
I don't know. At 18, I wasn't wearing puka shells necklaces.
Well, isn't he from the same spots as, like, Darby or something?
It's from Seattle.
Well, first of all,
Yeah.
the puka shell necklace, middle part, bowl cut, all that mullet, it's all cool again. So we cannot judge.
Is it?
Yes, all that's cool. So
Andy, we don't
what
know
it is.
that anymore. Remember? We don't know that.
we don't
part.
we don't know
We're
what's
too-
cool.
We're old.
We are old. We have to remember that.
Yeah, Darby, Nick Wayne, and Swerve are all from the same like circuit of wrestling up in
Yeah.
Seattle. But that would wrap up Dynamite. Tim apparently really enjoyed SmackDown this week, so let's get into
I
that.
I know we're gonna jump into it, but just before we go over things match by match, I thought SmackDown from like top to bottom was like and I know we watch it every week, but I just kind of like watched it differently this week, and I was like, this show is just crazy, like over. People love it. The storylines are crazy. The budget is insane. The way it looks is insane. It was a great. I thought it was a really good episode of SmackDown, to be honest with you.
So before we get into it, obviously I didn't write everything down, but if there's something I forgot that you guys can remember, feel free to jump in. But that being said, SmackDown opened up with a women's tag team match. Charlotte Flair and Shotzi ended up defeating Damage Control of Bayley and Io Sky. Asuka would end up coming out, though, and making it clear that she wants a rematch for her title with Io. I did love the AJ Styles stuff this week. AJ Styles was confronted by Paul Heyman backstage, And I believe he would end up grabbing Heyman by the collar and pushing him up against like
So
containers in the back.
I'm gonna jump in here. So basically, what happened is right before that, Jimmy Uso walks up to Paul Heyman and says that he wants to get back. He basically wants back into the family, into the bloodline, and then he goes to dap Paul Heyman up, and then Paul. This is important. This is part of the storyline, and then Paul ignores him and doesn't give him a high five and do the dap up as we used to say. In the early 2000s, but then he walks away and walks up to AJ, and this
Basically
is where
tells Jimmy like to not worry about being in, just keep doing what he's doing, right?
yeah, but it's still like probably not though. Like that's the vibe he's giving off. And then Andy, I'll let you continue.
Yeah, so AJ is at like some backstage. It's kind of like a merch table. I don't know. He's like looking at his own shirts on a table with a guy behind the table sitting there.
Man, look at these freaking
And-
shirts. I got the shirt community. The shirt community.
And Paul would end up walking up to him, and AJ and him would have some words because if you guys remember last week, the main event was him versus Solo Sikoa. Jimmy would end up interfering during that, and oh god, I'm sorry guys. So AJ has a little beef with the Bloodline at the moment. But yeah, I mean, as he like I said,
they're presenting AJ as a main eventer star again, which I like. Finally, like he's a big star. They got the AJ Styles.
I'm hoping
chant
we
going
get some
in the
OC
crowd.
versus Bloodline.
Yeah.
OC versus Bloodline. Let's go. How you guys feel about bearded AJ Styles? He's growing that shit out.
I'm with it.
I mean, I kind of like it. Yeah.
I thought there was some commercial he was in, and like the beard was like done bad. And I remember him being like, "Oh, I don't know what's going on with
It's
this."
done
said-
bad.
He said, "I'm growing my beard out for the beard community."
But it was like I don't know. It was the way it was like trimmed up here. It was like too clean. Tim was like, "I'm not liking it."
It's because they use if anybody is catching on to the show later, and I haven't brought it up in a while. I'm a barber in real life, as they say, IRL. But yeah, so they do this thing called enhancements, which is like it's almost like painting it on, and it's great. Like it can look awesome on people. Like sometimes they do it on like basketball players and stuff, and you're like, damn, it does look like so clean and awesome. But on some people's, it looks just so weird. Like it looked weird on AJ Styles.
And now it's like natural looking.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, cool, let's go. His hair's getting long as shit again.
He has that soccer mom haircut now.
No, it's longer than Soccer Mom haircut.
Well, longer.
He's got long
Soccer
hair.
Mom haircut was a little rough. He got long hair.
He's a
But
long
what I was
hair.
saying is he grabbed Paul Heyman by the collar, and to get back in an attempt to get back into Roman and Paul's good graces, Jimmy Uso would end up attacking AJ Styles during this part, and I believe Heyman would grab the phone and be like, "Call Roman Reigns."
Yes, and then
Like-
I was
like he
making
does.
that was making reference
Oh,
to that was making now he might actually help him get back into the bloodline because since he helped him.
Yeah. So then we had a segment with LA Knight, Austin Theory, and Grayson Waller. It was a back and forth exchange between them before they came out, or not before they came out. But God, first of all, we talked about it last week. Grayson Waller and Austin Theory pairing up and being buddies is just like awfully good.
Yeah, you hate them so much.
It's like the worst pairing
They're
of people.
perfect friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just two young guys that are just like hated heels. Then they actually have like on-screen chemistry, which is like good.
Yeah.
And they kind of play off one another. But Theory during the segment would say, "So call this in, enjoy your 15 minutes of fame, because when I'm done with you, the Miz ain't gonna waste his time." So that being said, LA Knight would end up facing Austin Theory, and LA Knight would end up winning. He still is getting those ginormous pops. But shortly afterwards, LA Knight would end up, and I actually really like this part. He interrupted Paul Heyman talking with Adam Pearce. And after receiving another match with The Miz for next week, Paul Heyman ended up going up to him, saying he was a fan and how they've never been formally introduced, but then he turned serious, and he said, next time you want to interrupt, make sure you knock. And then he's like, got it, and then LA Knight would go to his ear and say, yeah, and then walk away. So now Heyman and the Bloodline are aware of, or at least Heyman is aware, on-screen aware of LA Knight. Look out for him, boys. Judgment Day, not used to seeing them on SmackDown, but now that they are the undisputed WWE Tag Team Champions, they can go to any show that they want. So they would end up coming out. Dom tried to talk through this segment, dude. I mean, he
got booed.
He was getting booed like crazy. It was awesome.
He, for once, he like actually just like kept talking instead of like stopping. He stopped a little bit, but then he just like, I have to say what they told me to say. And so like he just like powered through the segment. And Judgment Day had said that they're the most dominant faction now that the Bloodline's like crumbling. So then out would come the Brawling Brutes, which would lead to a match where the Judgment Day would end up beating the Brawling Brutes of Ridge Holland and Butch. Afterwards, Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits would come out, basically claim that, you know, they're going to be the next dominant team or group. Bobby still hasn't had a match since he's been back with all this. He's just kind of, they just keep coming out in suits, or the Street Profits are wrestling. But let's jump into our main event. I was kind of confused on the ending of why they did it this way. But Jimmy Uso versus AJ Styles. This is 2 weeks in a row AJ's been in the main event. Just keep it up. WWE, please. Like Tim said, they're putting AJ back, showcasing that he is a main eventer. I think eventually we should get Roman versus AJ. I've said it before, AJ's never faced Roman as the tribal chief, just as the big dog. Which is surprising because it feels like Roman's gone through every like top star as the tribal chief. So yeah, I mean, the winner would end up being AJ Styles. What you guys think of the match itself? He faced Solo last week, then Jimmy Uso this week. I figured they were going to make Jimmy win since the story was him trying to get back into the bloodline, but AJ would end up winning.
It was a really good match, though. Yeah, I'm with you guys on keeping AJ in the main event. I really hope they don't just use him just for like a bloodline reason.
Mm-hmm. But I was confused. Like after the match, Judgment Day would end up coming out and attacking AJ and rolling him in the ring in order for Solo to take him out. What's your guys' thoughts on why Judgment Day would do that?
Well, the commentators seem to think that they were trying to pair if they're going to have to...
Like an alliance.
They said draw lines. Yeah. So they would want to be with the Bloodline, but I don't really see that happening. At some point, it's going to be either like a trios match against each other.
Well, now I feel like we get like a match probably next week with AJ versus Priest, since Priest is the one that grabbed... Well, it was Finn and Priest, but...
Well, because AJ will keep going through like Finn, and then Priest.
Well, we've already seen the OC versus Judgment Day. That was like early on.
Yeah, but now they're going to be paired up with the Bloodline.
But I think it's more of a Bloodline thing. I hope it's more of a Bloodline thing.
I don't know. This Bloodline storyline has kind of worn off a lot in the past month.
I feel like it's down.
I think they could bring it back.
I think they're going to ramp it up soon.
I think it's ready to ramp.
It also doesn't
up.
help with Roman not being on TV a lot.
It's just Jay's now off doing his own thing, so it's like, what do you do with the other guys? Yeah. And Roman's just been off TV. You got Solo and Heyman basically holding it down.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to keep telling the story then.
Just maybe you just needed some downtime, and they're like, we can keep it coasting. It's just not going to be the prominent thing.
Yeah.
every single show. It's going to be on the show,
True.
but not going to be like like sometimes they used to open up and close the show,
Yeah, now it's more the Judgment Day doing that.
which I like.
Yeah.
I thought that. Are you guys like the same with me? Like when Judgment Day started, like I was like, this is like cringy. This is terrible.
We all hated it because
Because
Edge
Edge-
was in it too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then slowly, like, remember that song grew on us too? We're like, oh, that song's actually really good. And then,
yeah. But then Dom joined, and I was like, what? I was like, Dom is awful.
yeah.
But then
Now
he
it's
just
better.
he cashed in on it being like awful and ridiculous and like prison Dom, and it was
Yeah.
like,
And now he's actually a good heel.
well, Judgment Day is on Raw. They're on SmackDown. Rhea and Dom, especially Dom being the
NXT.
North American champion, are shown on NXT. I mean, they're on every WWE show.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Becky Lynch this Tuesday is going to be facing the NXT Women's Champion for the title in NXT, since Becky's never been NXT champ.
Oh, wow.
I mean, they constantly are having it. I mean, I think it's working. I think it's getting people to watch NXT, if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken, or else they
I
wouldn't.
haven't watched it that much yet, but
I watch it every week.
you watch
I see the
everything.
bad and the ugly, man. It's not as bad as like 2.0 was. I'll tell you that much. It's definitely not. It's not like it was.
Yeah.
But that wraps up SmackDown. Couple things. We don't have to talk too much about it, but we can go through Rampage really quick. Just some Eliminator tournament stuff. Penta would end up defeating Jay Lethal in an Eliminator tournament match, which means that he would end up facing the winner of the main event of Rampage, which was Samoa Joe versus Jeff Hardy. Felt like I was watching TNA, just not in its prime.
So weird.
Joe would end up defeating Jeff Hardy in the Eliminator tournament. And
It
before
wasn't a
that,
bad match.
no, it was fine. But we did have a little face-to-face with Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara. It was kind of funny. They're like, I'm so mad at you right now. I want to punch you in the face. He's like, well, I'm so mad at you. I want to punch you in the face. Like, it was like terrible script that was supposed to be like bad, is what it
Yeah.
seemed like.
Yeah.
So they are finally. It's one of those things that's being booked. It's like sometimes you're so mad at your buddy, you just gotta fight him one time and get it out of
Yeah.
you. And so they're booked to face one another, one-on-one for the first time next week on Dynamite, I believe. But let's
Yeah,
get
they're
into
actually-
Collision. Is this the first collision? This is the first Collision without Punk.
Tell me the second. First one was when
second.
it was announced.
Second, but I think this one was
Really?
better and a stronger showing, especially with
Okay.
Brian.
The last one was when Punk. Yeah.
Okay. Well, John Moxley would open up the show. I guess he's first match on Dynamite and Collision. And
I'm
defeat-
telling you, it's because of the international title. Like, I feel like they're
Yeah.
making that like the workhorse title, which is kind of cool. But
Yeah, they are. I mean, this match was for the International Championship, and it was against Action Andretti, which Moxley would end up retaining in the end. We had a video package play, which recapped the long history between Roderick Strong and Adam Cole. This was kind of interesting if you hadn't seen or didn't know about their history, I should say. Even if you knew them in NXT, they've known each other a very long time. So there are a bunch of photos and him talking about it. Again, he's paired up with the Kingdom. Chris Statlander, I do want to talk about this, though, and this should have been in what we're going to talk about this week, the return that happened on Collision. But Chris Statlander would end up defeating they're called the Renegade Twins. She defeated one of the Renegade Twins called Charlotte. Not Charlotte, but Charlotte, in an open challenge. The Renegade Twins would start attacking, and then we would get a return. Who returned, guys?
Tim's favorite.
I think all of our favorites. She's
I know.
great.
That's what I'm gonna say.
It's so weird that like you didn't think that I didn't think that like I would like Jade Cargill, but she's pretty great. Pretty great. I was happy
Well,
to
she's
see her
looking
back.
Jade Cargill.
It looks like a star.
She does.
She looks like a
And
star.
also, it's like when she came back, I was like, I feel like the women's division really missed her a lot.
Yeah, Andy.
I
I
agree.
think Andy said it best. It's like you didn't know what you had till it was gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, with her, I said I didn't realize that I wanted her back, or that
Yeah.
I missed her on TV until she actually appeared on TV.
Yeah.
But she would come out and help out Statlander from getting attacked, but then would end up taking out Statlander herself.
She did a really
Clearly,
good choke slam.
But no, I mean, not many people on the roster, women, can stand like toe-to-toe strength with like Chris Statlander. She's, one of the stronger women, I think, on the roster.
Oh yeah.
And so Jay Cargill is back and clearly wants her TBS championship back. I actually really enjoyed this sit down with Eddie Kingston and Claudio Castagnoli that ended up happening. So they had to sit down with Tony Schiavone, and you finally got a little bit of their history, instead of having to do your own digging. Eddie Kingston said that before Claudio went away, he refused to do business, which basically means putting over the guy as you're leaving the company. And Claudio would defend it, saying sometimes you do things that are best for business. So basically putting himself over apparently was best for the business at that time.
He said, "You were nothing compared to me. I was the Swiss super soldier."
That's a terrible impression.
That's not a good Swiss. He also didn't shake hands with
any of the Swiss listeners. I apologize.
Yeah, Claudio said that Kingston owed him a handshake and his respect when they met when they meet at Arthur Ashe. So we have a double title match set for. Is it next week? I think it's next week.
It's the Arthur Ashe Stadium show, so I think
it's Grand Slam, right? Is what they're doing.
It's either next week or the following week. But either way, I think they're gonna have Eddie win, because I don't feel like Claudio's gonna have the New Japan title.
So they're putting both of their respective titles on the line. It's gonna be the NJPW Openweight Championship, and Claudio's ROH title, I believe. Okay.
Yeah, so that's why I'm like, I don't think Claudio's gonna get the New Japan title.
So right now it's sounding like next week's card is gonna be pretty stacked. CJ Perry, formerly known as Lana, had a video package, which to me was confusing. This whole Miro and Lana CJ Perry stuff is like super confusing to me. If any of you guys can clear it up, please. But
I don't know. I mean, the only thing I think of is last time that Miro was on TV before he returned was when he was like denounced, his god and also his wife, and so they didn't
his hot and flexible wife.
Yeah, like they need to have Miro explain it, or someone just say what is happening.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. She was saying that she's gonna have to do what she needs to do. I'm like, what are you gonna try to take out Miro? Like, I don't understand what you're getting at when you're saying you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, it's kind of confusing.
Yeah. After that, Luchasaurus and Christian would attack Darby Allin backstage before his match against Roderick Strong in the Eliminator tournament, and Roderick Strong would end up being the winner, which means he will take on the winner of the main event in Collision, which is Samoa Joe versus Penta. And that will be the finals to see who takes on MJF. But before we get to the main event, let's talk about this Bryan Danielson segment. Your guys' opinion, as he kind of... Does it seem like he's taking the place of like who to do the show around now that Punk's gone? Do you think that's the role they're putting him in temporarily?
I think for now.
Excuse me. Yeah, 100%.
But also in all the advertising I saw, they replaced Punk with Jay White. So I feel like maybe in a little bit it might be Jay White as the top star.
It's funny, my little picture, my icon when I record Rampage has Punk in it still.
Yeah, it says mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of funny.
Makes me
sad. It's because it's a work. It's not real.
Not real, guys. It's a work, you bunch of marks.
It's always a work.
But Bryan Danielson would end up talking about how he had promised his daughter that when she turned 7, he would be home more and wouldn't be wrestling as much. And she's 6 now, so his career is coming to an end.
Yep.
But he said he's gonna make this last year or so. Basically, he's not gonna go. He's gonna go down fighting, and he wants to fight Zack Sabre Jr. at AEW's new pay-per-view called Wrestle Dream, which I believe is taking place in Seattle, in his home state of Washington. So this is this is a dream match for a lot of people. Zack Sabre Jr. and Bryan Danielson. I'm really, really excited for it. By Tim's reaction when I sent it to you guys, it sounds like you are too.
Oh yeah,
this is gonna be like
a
dude. It's gonna be
technical dream match.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, Zack Sabre Jr. is an NJPW champion. I don't even want to try to remember which one he is.
Yeah, I forget which one he is. But this also was supposed to happen in the first Forbidden Door show. But I think Danielson was injured then, right?
The first Forbidden Door? I think you're right. He ended up taking on Claudio Castagnoli.
Yeah, because it was supposed to be Danielson then.
Okay. So then, sorry, trying to figure out where I'm at. So during this segment, Ricky Starks would end up coming out. Ricky's great. He's over. He's really good in the role that he's doing, and Danielson would go to offer Ricky a spot in the Blackpool Combat Club before getting attacked.
Ricky was about to put his hand out too.
Yeah, Big Bill would end up attacking him, and Moxley would end up coming out and helping his friend. Any thoughts on this? Any thoughts on Ricky?
I mean, Ricky's been on fire right now, I feel like.
And I'm rooting for him because I want him to do good. I feel bad for him that he has to keep getting a restart, basically.
But yeah, so this led to a fight. Mox ended up attacking Big Bill, and but Starks and Bill would end up standing tall by the end. And I believe we're getting Moxley versus Big Bill next week.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken. Next time.
Starting off the show,
There's a lot going on next Dynamite. Or maybe it's just spread out with along like Grand Slam, AEW Grand Slam week.
Yeah.
And then our main event, which was the final semifinal of the Eliminator tournament, Samoa Joe versus Penta. And after a good match, I think we all kind of suspected Samoa Joe would be the winner based off. It's like, why do the MJF promo stuff if you're not going to have this going? So it's Joe versus Roderick Strong next week. Winner faces MJF. Now, they've been building to both of these guys possibly facing MJF. So, like, do you think that happens?
I think it's Samoa Joe who wins.
Strong faces Cole?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was saying Samoa Joe will face MJF, and then Roderick Strong will face Adam Cole. Because there'll be some interference or something that'll happen.
I'm surprised they haven't done the Kingdom, Mike Bennett and Matt Taven versus Cole and MJF for the ROH titles yet.
That's an easy match to start up.
But I think they're going to do, if they're going to do singles matches, it's going to be Joe and MJF.
Oh, yeah. And also, I'll just say real quick about Samoa Joe's match. I love his, what they call it, the nope spot, where he just, like, walks away and they do a dive.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, this one when Penta went through the table, he's just walking away.
And that wraps up Collision, which means we wrap up the show now, guys. Tim, you want to take us out? Do we have a classic show of the week?
We do have a classic show of the week. The classic show of the week is Turning Point 2009 by TNA Wrestling, and it is available for free on YouTube. I've been doing trying to do more YouTube stuff, and you'll notice most of them are TNA because not everybody, unfortunately, has Peacock, and sometimes when we do these shows of the week, sometimes people might have access to them, but most people have access to YouTube. TNA had some
bangers of matches, man.
They did. People can say what they want, and it's always haha TNA, but all right, let's go over this card because this is pretty crazy. So, singles match for the X Division Championship. You have Homicide versus Amazing Red. You have a 6 knockout tag team match for the TNA Women's Knockout Championship. ODB and Sarita and Taylor Wilde versus the Beautiful People. A 3-way tag match for the TNA World Tag Team Championship. The British Invasion versus the Motor City Machine Guns. 6 Sides of Steel, Terra versus Awesome Kong. A lot of women's matches. TNA being ahead of their time. I mean, all the way back in 2009. Good for them. I think that's 3 women's matches just on this card, so that's pretty cool. Team 3D, Brother and Ray and Devon and Rhino defeat. Versus D'Angelo Hernandez and Matt Morgan. And now we're getting into the meat here. Scott Steiner versus Bobby Lashley. So you have a current guy versus a legend guy. Kurt Angle against Nigel McGuinness. Who in this company he's known as Desmond Wolfe. So that's a kind of a weird sleeper match. And the main event here, which is one of the best matches of all time, in my opinion, and that's why I picked it, is this match. AJ Styles versus Christopher Daniels versus Samoa Joe in a triple threat match for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship.
There's some crazy triple threats that TNA did throughout the years that are amazing.
TNA love triple threats.
Usually TNT.
The T in TNA stands for triple threat.
Also, on TNA, they had one of the best women's divisions I think any company's ever had.
Yeah, they were way before their time. I don't think TNA gets their flowers, as they say.
Dude, they're still holding on. Well, Impact.
Thank you all for joining us for 99 episodes. Next week we will be returning with Bro Keller, friend of the show, an actual friend of the show, not some guy that we always just joke around and say is a friend of the show. And he's going to join us. He's going to talk wrestling with us. Over these past 2 years, it's been so cool to hang out with 2 of my best friends and make this podcast every single week. I know these guys feel the same. We every now and then we may have differing in opinion, and we may like this guy and not like this guy and blah blah blah, but at the end of the day it's so fun doing this, and I love both of these guys. Thank you for doing 99 episodes with us. Next week's episode 100. Keep enjoying pro wrestling, because that's what wrestling is all about. It's not about fan drama, it's not about all this backstage stuff, it's about the fans enjoying the show. So thank you so much. We'll see you next week.